Buzz. Coffee. When I was a kid, growing up as Mormon, coffee was considered like some kind of devil diarrhea juice. The devil's diarrhea. It was just considered bad because it was a hot drink. So we weren't allowed to drink it, and my entire life, everybody was just looking and judging anybody who drank coffee. My grandpa drank coffee, and he would come to our house anytime they'd visit, and he'd bring his little coffee machine, and my mom would always look at him like he was drinking some diarrhea, some devil's diarrhea, and make everybody feel bad about it. So I avoided it, obviously. But the first time I ever had it, me, my mom, and my Oma, German Oma, went over to visit her old hometown when she was a kid. That she had to leave because the Russians were coming. She left when she was 11, but she grew up in this apartment. And we wanted to discover if it was still there. So we ended up going to this town, and it was still kind of run down a little bit. This was in 98, so it wasn't that long after the wall came down. So nothing had really been rehabilitated. It was all just still kind of lingering from World War II. And previous to World War II, a lot of these apartment buildings were built back then. So we get there, and we find this apartment that she grew up in, and we go in, and it's grungy, and they still have just two communal toilet stalls at the bottom of the apartment, because they didn't actually have bathrooms inside the apartment. And so we walked over there and we knocked on the door, and an old lady answers it. I mean, she is old as fuck. She probably actually lived there since the war or something, but she answers it. And my Oma kind of looks at her, and she makes a gesture that it's like she was a little kid, and she got it. So they let us in, and her husband was there, and they were frail and kind of moved around really slow, but they seemed excited because they understood what happened, that we were there to visit. And so as we were there, just kind of soaking it in and looking at my Oma's face, and kind of reminiscing about her childhood and telling stories about where she did this and that. And everything inside the apartment was exactly the same. Nothing had been upgraded, changed, rearranged. The furniture was different, of course, but the closet that she had an experience with a Christmas present was still there, and some of the other stuff was still there. Anyways, this couple wanted to be hospitable, so they took out an old tin can that was probably 80 years old or some shit, and they took out these little black powder grain things. I didn't know what it was, and they didn't have a filter, so they just took some hot water and these old ass coffee grounds, which may have already been used. They stick it in the bottom of the cup, of every one of our cups, put some water on it, and then just stirred it, and then they gave it to us like that. They were doing the best they could. They were being extremely friendly, hospitable, and because we couldn't actually speak to them, they just offered it as just a nice gesture. But I looked at my mom and Oma, and she said, just drink it, because we didn't want to be rude. So I'm drinking. Well, I didn't know what it was, coffee. They told me it was coffee. I'm like, what is this shit? When I drank it, coffee grounds just got in my mouth. I didn't know what to do with them. Was I supposed to chew them? Was I supposed to just swallow it? I thought that's what coffee was. So then in my head, I agreed with my mom and with the church that coffee really is the devil's diarrhea. It tasted like shit. So from that point on, when I was 14, I thought, man, coffee is garbage. And so it took me a while to actually enjoy it until I discovered a cappuccino. And then before going to school every day, I would get a cappuccino. And then because I was hanging around some Mormons at that point, One of them actually slapped me in the back of the head when he found out that I was drinking coffee. Like, oh man, you did so much harm to yourself and everybody around you by drinking a cappuccino. You are a bad person. Ooh. That really opened up my eyes at that point. I'm like, somebody's gonna slap me for drinking coffee. Okay, right. It made me want to drink it a little bit more, but it wasn't until a few years later before I started really appreciating the awesomeness of coffee. See, what happens is the reason why people enjoy drinking coffee so much with another person or other people and going out and getting coffee is because no matter what vibe you're in, no matter what kind of mood you're in before you start drinking it, within 10, 15 minutes, you guys are all vibing together. All at the same kind of frequency because, hey, everybody has different personalities and whatnot, but when you're drinking coffee, you are buzzing together. And I don't see anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with taking a bunch of people, having a little leg up, just a little boost up from a natural plant, prepared in a way that is delicious so that you guys all can vibe together. And that's why coffee is great, because it brings people together. And yeah, it can taste like shit sometimes, but it's natural and it brings people together, and therefore coffee is awesome. Just don't overdo it. I had a friend once that used to slam like 8 32-ounce cups of, not even cups, like jugs of coffee every single day. And the dude was jittery. I mean, he really did look like he was gonna spontaneously shit himself at any point. And that's also not good. So everything in moderation is the key. Enjoy your coffee and don't let any judgmental coffee hating fools destroy your enjoyment of the devil's diarrhea.
Buzz, buzz, coffee, coffee, buzz, 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 buzz, buzz. Coffee.